Hi everybody, this is Missa with Missa Reviews. This week I have gotten 2 different supplements for us to review. The first is the Ghosts of Sorrow Marsh, and the second is the Curse of Sapphire Lake. If either of these are interesting to you, I have left affiliate links down below in the description box. Affiliate links don't change the price for you at all. All they do is throw a little bit of change back at me in case you decide that you do like them. So, with that said, let's get on our way. The town of Bracken was never a beautiful place, likened to a toad squatting on a drowned stone foundation. The small collection of hardwood buildings and raised streets still managed to be earnest, if not charming. Now, though, a pall hangs over the place. The shutters are closed against the night, and the doors barred against the shapes that move in the mist. The gates, a relic from when Bracken had been garrisoned for its command of the southern causeway, are manned by hollow-eyed militiamen that have peered into too many shadows. Fear hangs heavy in the air, but those who live beneath the shroud will not name the source, except in whispers. That is the introduction for Ghosts of Sorrow Marsh, written by Neil Litherland and Matt Casey Rift Everhart. This is published by Wizco Games, and it's a one-shot adventure for players that are level 1, and it's up to 4 to 6 players. So this one, I really enjoyed this one, reading through it. So there is something happening in the marsh right outside of the town of Bracken, and it's up to the players to figure out what's going on. Mostly, trade and people can't go through the marsh. Something is killing them and taking them away, or they're disappearing. It's up to the players to figure out what's going on. This will absolutely fit into any campaign, or it can be the start of a new one. There's 3 options by the author on why the party is there that are already there for you to be able to experiment with. That said, you can choose your own things. You don't have to stick with those 3. So this is also really easily set up in that it's set into 3 acts. So it gives you Act 1 as your intro, Act 2, the suspense, Act 3 is the climax and the finale. So that's really, really nicely written in there. So it's all set up nice for a new DM. With that said, let me go ahead and explain those acts to you. So Act 1, like I said, is like the intro. So you're getting a description on what the town is like. You're getting told about the different places that you can go and who you can interact with. And what's also really interesting for the DM is that you're told what things are required for the story and what things are optional. So it leaves you more wiggle room, so you don't have to feel like you're forcing players to do things if they don't want to. Act 2, the suspense, it gets really, really interesting. You're getting out into the Sorrow Marsh, and you're laying eyes on the fields of the marshland. It's dotted with decaying tents, flags, and equipment. There's encounter tables for the DM to use to help with random encounters. And if the players play their cards right, there's information to be had about what is going on. Act 3, there are 2 maps given, and both of which are made with the actual squares, not hexagons, so it's a little bit easier if you're able to print it out and use it for minis, or I know in our game we're talking about using like flat circular discs instead of doing a whole like 3D mini. We'll just do 2D. So they will work well with that too. And even with the theater of the mind, the DMs will be able to really envision where everything is at. It's extremely helpful to have those maps. And honestly, the big bad in this one, it's normally if the DM doesn't do it quite right, it won't be as unnerving as it was when I was reading it. and the picture and artwork for it was phenomenal. So highly recommend that this be used for new DMs or old DMs. It doesn't matter. New DMs, you're going to be able to pick this up and just kind of read it and play a choose your own adventure almost. Whereas more seasoned DMs, you could really use this as the bare bones for something and make something big out of it. It's a really great one-shot campaign. We're actually planning on using this with my little sister in the near future. So I'll let you know how that goes. On to our second book. 30 years ago, the little hamlet of Kingsbridge was on the verge of becoming a proper town. It had loomed in the shadows of the hills for years, but Halfguard Trollsbane had finally slain the last of the monsters who had plagued his people. On the eve of their celebration, though, the hall doors were splintered by a hulking figure. Dripping with the dark waters of Sapphire Lake, the intruder was larger than any warrior in the hall, its face hidden by a war mask of pale, white bone. It sighed through everyone who tried to stop it, barely slowed by blows that would have killed any mortal man. It vaulted the dais, and with a single swing of its blade, cleaved Halfguard's head from his shoulders. Then it vanished into the night, leaving a trail of gore and blood that stopped at the rocky shores of the lake. So that is the introduction to Sapphire Lake, The Curse of Sapphire Lake, my apologies, written by Neil Litherland and Brian Burke. This is published by Total Party Kill, otherwise known as TPK, Games. This is also meant for level 1 players, 4 of them this time. And my first reactions to this is that it read like a really good story. And that is both good, and there's a little bit of negative to that. Instead of having that nice setup that the first book had, the Ghosts of Sorrow Marsh, it is more linear. But your choices do matter, extremely matter in this one, in that depending on what the PCs decide to do depends on what the next thing is going to be. The conclusion of the campaign is definitely on the shoulders of the players based off of the decisions that they make. So you're going to, if you have very, very murder hobo-y players, the outcome is going to probably be different than what they wanted it to be. But that happens. And that's one of the best things about D&D. I do suggest that if a new DM wants to pick this up, to have this be the start of your campaign. It's a lot harder, in my opinion, to put this into an already established game. Just because it's explained in the campaign book that this particular hamlet is really hard to get to by accident. Like, you have to purposely be there for something. Maybe you're going through and you have to get to some like necromancer, some lich or something that's on the other side of these hills and mountains. But otherwise, I would suggest this be a start off point for a campaign versus anything else. This is also, while it says it's a full campaign, I also think that it's really good fodder for a side quest. If you know how to work it right. There is a lot more to this one, though, than the last one, in that the stat blocks, there's considerably more of them. You have an actual special item that is only available in this particular campaign. And I like this item. Without giving too much away, I really love this item. It is that pale white bone mask, and that is the only information about it that I'm going to give you. But otherwise, this is a fairly straightforward campaign. It's spooky. It's really, really good for the spooky season. We are in October, if you are watching it in October. And It felt very much like Friday the 13th in D&D. That's probably the best way that I can put that, is that it felt like Friday the 13th in D&D. In that you have this big hulking figure with this horrible like white mask, and he's got this giant, oh, it was crazy. But like I said, good read. New DMs, you can absolutely pick this up. Again, suggesting starting this off as your campaign, using this to start your world. Seasoned DMs, you could absolutely make this longer than it suggests and fill in more of what's going on. There are some NPCs, you're given the stat blocks for them. You're given the stat blocks for your big bad. And there's some other little things that happen in there too. And again, most of this is more player determined based off of their actions and their decisions, instead of just do this, do this, do this, do this. So that's my thoughts on this. I do suggest both. If nothing else, to give them a read. They're usually under like $5 on DriveThruRPG. And like I said before, I'm going to go ahead and put the links to those in the description box below. And if you want to keep up to what I'm doing, then go ahead, hit the subscribe. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up button. If you didn't like the video, hit the thumbs down button and leave me a comment on why you did or did not like the video. I will absolutely read through them. I might not answer them, but I will read through the comments. And let's see here. Next video I have planned for 100 witches and 100 dangerous plants. I think they will both fit very well into our spooky season, especially since you don't see plants coming up very often in D&D, and they should. You're out in the wilderness all the time. So let's see how those go, and I hope to see you there. Until next time, keep those dice rolling. Bye.
The bone man walks through the darkness. The bone man stalks through the mist. Hide your face from the bone man, or by his blade you'll be kissed. He rises at night from the waters, turn dark and black neath the moon. But it's a hole down to hell that he comes from, which he'll return to again very soon.